Today is birthday number 41 for moi, and I just started thinking about time and what is the concept of time, because we hear that time is an illusion, linear time is an illusion. And so then that begs the question, well, what are we experiencing if it's not linear time, and how does linear time work? And do you guys all remember when you were younger and how like a trip that was 30 minutes long felt like a lifetime? Time used to go slower for all of us when we were younger. And it's a pretty common theme. It might not be the case for everybody. Might not be the case for everybody. But why is that? Why does time go slower when we were younger versus now? Yesterday, I spent the entire day setting up a studio camera and trying to get that all set up for streaming. And frames per second came up 29.97 versus 30 is a thing in the camera world. I have no idea why or what it means, but I do know what a frame per second means. It means that every second there's 30 frames, and it gives us another illusion. It gives us the illusion of video, because when we watch video, we're not actually seeing a continuously moving stream of imagery. We're seeing slides per second that gives us the illusion of time or of video. And the more streams per second, the smoother that video looks. And if you're moving very, very fast at a slower frame rate, if the frames were only 10 frames per second, then you would be able to see glitches. You'd be able to see the movement like 10 times per second. But at 30, at 60, at 120, it just looks very, very flowing. And that's how we perceive time. It is in frames per second. And as we are younger, the capacity of this physical spacesuit is able to take in more frames per second. But unlike a video where we're an external person looking at a screen, and the more frames per second, the smoother the video is, within our vehicle, our body, the more frames per second, the illusion of time gets more, right? There's more data stuffed into the equation in the same amount of time. There's more frames in the same second. So in an hour of a young child that's growing and adapting and able to take in and process more information in the same hour, that space of time is going to seem a lot longer than an adult who's been around for a while, maybe had some head injuries, maybe had some days where they're drunk, and maybe did a lot of things in their life that, number one, my wedding ring's not on. Number one, got a broken one right here. These are temporary ones. My actual wedding ring is amazing, but and so is my wife. So I could have just went on another tangent, but I'm not going to. So the adult, the us, the older person, and I'm saying this as I'm casting spells, and some of you, some of us would like to remain young, but I'm just noticing a contrast within myself. So it might not be the same for everybody. But as we are aging, which is also another word that I should come up with an alternative for. As we are getting older, the body's ability to process the frames per second become less important. We've learned a lot of what we need to learn. So that part of this physical spacesuit becomes not a priority to take in information. So it deloads the amount of frames per second to allow us to have energy for other processes And so the frames per second lower, which gives us the illusion that time is moving faster. We're able to take in less frames per second from reality. Now, what is reality? Right? We are beginning to notice less of the frames, the frame rate slows down for reality. However, I am under the gnosis that we're not in a reality and that we are in many realities, and every one of those frames can be said to be a different reality. Does that mean that we're slowing down or speeding up in the time in the conscious stream that's traveling through realities? Maybe. But the fact of the matter is, if we would like time to slow down, we need to notice more, because time isn't only a function of frames per second in the present moment, like how fast we're going and zipping through this universe. Time is also a function of memory, because as we remember back over that last hour, if there's nothing substantial to stick out, then it's all just going to be a blur, and it's all going to feel like a fast scan through that last hour. Once again, going back to our younger version of self where more things are new to us. Walking down the street, oh, I've never seen that tree before. Oh, what kind of grass is that? I've never noticed my neighbor's house is yellow. Is that dog mean? There's all of these things. What's my mom doing now? What is she thinking about? There's all of these things that we're noticing when we're younger. All, like, we're noticing everything. Everything is a new situation for the most part. And that gives us also another sensation of time slowing down, because when we remember back, we have lots of things that stick out. So another way to make time seem like it's more full is to highlight the things that are happening in our life, to pay attention to now I'm going to switch another perspective of that. Like, how do you do that? How do you pay attention? How do you highlight life? How do you notice life? Well, when it comes to reading a book or listening to a lecture or watching a movie, a lot of people think like taking notes is going to allow you to retain the memory, or highlighting a book is going to allow you to retain the memory. And from what I remember, and I'm trying to think of like what actual book or what actual study did I read that I got this information from, but I can't. Um, the actual thing that allows us to commit things to memory is if we ponder them. If we, if in yoga, it's called contemplation. Okay, so when a new piece of information comes in through a book, through a lecture, we contemplate how that's relevant to us, or we build a story around it. And actually, the things that we have the most memory stickiness with is setting, it's location, and things in the location are important to us, right? So smell, taste, vision, hearing. So if you're taking in information in a book, if you're imagining what the words feel like in a three-dimensional space, that is going to allow you to remember it grander. So everybody right now, think about walking into your elementary school bathroom. That's something that is like long gone, but a lot of us can do that, like literally, like even if it's blurry. Or what about childhood home bedroom? It's there, right? And even within that memory, it pulls up like what the image of the bed looked like. But a random fact from an hour ago or a year ago from a book that you read, that's in and out. But situation, so that's why like some of you guys know things that you heard on a podcast, and what actually is tied to that memory and making it stick is the actual physical location that you were in when you heard it coming through your headphones. So, for instance, there's a book, How to Meet Friends and Influence People. And there's a part in that book where he's talking about going in for a job interview and speaking to the interviewer about the wood on the moldings in the office, as opposed to just getting in there and basically being like, I'm the man for the job. He's connecting with the interviewer as a person and noticing the environment and relaying that through conversation. And whenever that memory pulls up, right, that when I meet with people, it's about them. And there's other things to notice rather than the actual business at hand. And people are going to appreciate that. The book is called How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? So it's teaching you how to connect with people in a way that they can re- receive you as a person that's beneficial to their life. And then that leads to friends, that leads to influence. So, anyways, I was 19 years old when I read that. So that's 22 years ago. 22 years ago. And I remember I was walking on my college campus with sandals in Michigan in the middle of wintertime when that part of the book was playing. And it was a very, very painful moment because in Michigan it gets, under 0 degrees Fahrenheit. It was at nighttime. It was windy. It was snowing. I remember the snow. Where there's light and then snow. There's like a yellow light and then snow is like falling underneath it. And if it's windy out, the snow's like coming on it on an angle. And I remember that. I remember going to class, which is a very sort of like miserable time because you don't necessarily desire to be walking to class in the middle of wintertime. But I had these headphones in my ears that were wireless. So there's basically batteries in them. Like I'm remembering all of this stuff, right? I haven't actually thought about all of that in detail, but I could continue spelling out this scene to you guys. I could continue. I know the road. I was walking to the left of the road and I was walking to this building that overlooks the baseball field and soccer field of Oakland University in Michigan. And yeah, so the brain is, from an evolutionary standpoint and from a non-evolutionary standpoint, I would assume as well, from other theories of existence, the physical brain that's cataloging our memories, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Is the physical brain cataloging our memories? I don't think so. Is very, very good. The lens is very, very good at taking snapshots, recording memories of physical scenes, because that would be important to us as an animal. Once again, if we are from an animal, from an evolutionary standpoint, which I don't always take that perspective. I don't always take the perspective of time existing all now and us traveling through realities. It's good to have multiple perceptions of life. In fact, the more perceptions we have of life, the more we go up the pyramid and be able to see multiple perspectives per moment, which also gives us more data per slide, right? Which also gives us another perception of the fullness of time. And I'm talking about this because a lot of people on the street, if you say, is time moving faster? They're going to say yes. And some days I feel like time is moving slower. So I'll remember back to yesterday and it feels like it happened a week ago because so much has happened between right now in this moment and last night, or right now in this moment and this morning. There's so much happening, and that we can increase with multiple perspectives. So imagine in one of those moments of reality, we don't just have one way of looking at it. We've got multiple different lenses in which we can input that information into whatever's cataloging this. All right. And this catalog, I believe, is external of our physical body. And the body is more like a camera or a radio that's both downloading and transmitting these signals to our higher or greater version of self. And this version has a grander perspective of us. Maybe it has a perspective of all of us, right? Just like we have a perspective of all of the cells within us. The cells within us all have their own life cycle. They live and die. They excrete, they eat, they defend themselves, they communicate, they have senses, they have an ability to sense the environment around them and make meaning, and very much have their own autonomy. And they don't have access necessarily to this. Like what we do is we take this is a made up word, compilement. We take this pile of human cells and non-human cells because we're not just human. there's more there's more non-human aspects, meaning cells, bacteria. There's more non-human entities within us than there are human cells. That's a fact. More of us is non-human than human. It's just human cells are also made up of a bunch of different parts, but they're bigger than some of the bacteria that's within us. And there's I don't even want to say a word, trillions of bacteria that make us up. And that bacteria is necessary for our thought processes. It is necessary for our emotions. It is necessary for our entire conception of being human, because humans are not just humans. There's a term, it's called holobiont, which I believe I don't have the actual paper that I read the first time and it's all highlighted. It would be really cool, but I believe I'm going to go through this article that explains what I'm talking about. But we're holobiont. We're a collection of entities. So it can exist that a collection of entities can make up one being, because that is what we are. And as above, so below, it's very easy to make the jump from that bridge to the notion that we may be a collection of entities that makes up a grander consciousness. And we are the cell, the self within that grander consciousness. And that grander consciousness seeks perspective, which is why we have, dun, 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 this is one thing that makes us human. We have self awareness. We have awareness. That is one thing that is special about humans, is we have self-awareness, because the cells within our body, I just explained, have awareness. We have awareness of self. We are able to make meaning of this. Animals, plants, they're on a spectrum between lower functioning animals and plants have awareness. Higher functioning animals and plants have self-awareness. Humans have self-awareness at a lower functioning scale. Once we've evolved to a point where we have graduated to become a human being within consciousness, we are spectrum from self-awareness to awareness of others. That is our spectrum. Okay, so in the ascension of human, like why we are here to live multiple lives, however, or within the same life, to go through this spectrum from only caring about ourself to realizing and being aware, not just like, oh, everybody is like me and I respect them. No, but actually being them, feeling what everybody else feels. Okay, that's the sort of slice of evolution of our ascension that we're in. We're going from self-awareness. I'm keep on saying this so you guys get it. Self-awareness, awareness of one body to awareness of multiple bodies, aka the entire species of humans on this planet. And it's already happening. There's some people that are empathic, they're able to feel the emotions of others. I definitely can, when somebody else is feeling anxious or happy, I can definitely feel that buzz of energy coming in to me. And I get to kind of switch, like toggle back to like, no, 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 let's maintain in my field and let's not take on this other field. But if somebody's really adamant and really aligned that they're pissed off and angry, it influences myself. And a lot of us have this capacity, and it's actually been proven scientifically. They hook people up to to monitors within an apartment building, and they can see people in different apartments are affecting other people around them, above them, next to them, behind them. And the people with the most alignment are the ones that do the most influencing. And it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, because alignment is alignment. You could be completely in your warrior phase and just wanting to bulldoze everybody down in life, and you will influence people because their field is being influenced by your absolute coherence of destruction. And these people exist for the harmony of all. Look into nature, look into our own body. There are destroyer cells, there are destroyer animals, there are plants that eat other animals. They steal with each other, but from a we're not taught about these like concepts in school, right? That things can be both negative and positive at the same time, because negative and positive, or hot and cold, or good and bad, are actually just different aspects of the same scale. So good and bad are actually the same thing. The more bad there are, the more that it stimulates others to be good, because back to the spectrum, we will all begin to understand that there are no others, that we are all part of the same organism. I need to go back to the original point before I got sidetracked with that, which kind of is related. But as we go through this ascension, we go from being able to feel other people's emotions, which a lot of us are being able to do, to being able to know whether other people know, which we're doing artificially, right? Like right now I'm speaking things that I have relationship with, that I have gnosis with, and everybody watching this is gaining that knowledge, and their ability to translate that into wisdom is up to their integration of what my knowledge presents them. And this is happening, like, as I know, I'm speaking what I know in this moment, and what I know may graduate, and or yeah, graduate to something else, and I will then speak it, and you, if you're here, will then receive it. And this will happen naturally, even though technology is still natural, right? Just like a spider web builds a web, and birds build a nest. We don't say like, oh, that bird nest isn't natural, that freaking bird. That bird's changing things. Get them out of here because they built a nest. I mean, we're doing the same thing. We build nests. Could be better, could be more harmonious to nature as a whole. It could be more harmonious to ourselves. But as we gain more awareness of others, we will start shifting and the world will change because once we know people's feelings and we know their knowledge, where somebody discovers something on the other side of the planet or maybe in off planet, and as they know that, we know that as a entity of beings on the planet, we become one. And that's what the law of one is. And as we become one and we have all these perspectives, we start to realize that the reason why we are right now currently in self-awareness zone is because we are a collection of entities and we get to bring and strengthen in this lifetime our awareness of self and our awareness of others because the grand consciousness of us needs that. It seeks that. So back to what I was talking about before. The more points, the more perspective windows, the more lenses we're able to fulfill in every moment, the the more we fulfill our purpose. So it's not about taking one perspective and arguing. That is why arguing feels so inharmonious. It might even be like the worst feeling that we can feel is when we are holding on to one point and we're going against others who have another perspective. It enrages us so much that people will kill each other over this. And I feel that it's a massive misunderstanding of what the point of this all is. The point of this all, if we're going in a linear direction, is to intake, accept, watch, notice, integrate, if you're able to, the multiple perspectives on this plane of existence. And as we're doing that, we fill our grander self's capacity to notice the universe, to notice reality, which is what the point of us as individual selves are here. We are here to gather perspectives. And the more points of perspective we're able to consume and transmit, the more valuable we are. The more valuable we are to ourself and to the higher being. And as we go through life, that's why when you go through life, right? So back to child walking down the street. Oh, I've never seen that yellow colored house before. The next time, maybe they meet the person that's inside the yellow colored house. Then 3 weeks later, they walk by again. Now they look at the house and they don't only have an experience of the house, they have an experience of the house and the person inside in the same moment. In the same moment, you have multiple perspectives of the thing that before you only had the house. And then maybe that person eventually becomes mean to you. And now you walk by the house, you've got the color, you got the house, you got the details, you got the person, what the person said the first time you met them, and the feeling associated with that. So as humans, we're able to fill in moments like that. And if we're able to also take somebody else's perspective or something else, maybe a movie that you saw that's completely fiction, It doesn't matter if it's real or not, guys. We get so tied up to, is this true or not? Is the earth flat or is the earth round? Did evolution happen this way, or are we an alien experiment here, like an alien ant farm? Or is it a God thing and we're here as a test? Whether it's true or not is inconsequential. What matters is the ability to perceive from that perspective, from another person's perspective, even if it's fiction. What if the earth is flat? What does that mean in this moment? Are you able to tie that into a stable, coherent experience that you can tie on to perspective, I should say, a stable, coherent perspective that you can adapt and integrate into your present moment awareness? And also at the same moment, be able to view the subject at hand, which is your life, from the perspective of the earth being a globe. Well, that doesn't make sense from a physical standpoint of how reality works and how we're taught it works. It doesn't. So a lot of us have resistance with that. And we just want to know what is right and what is wrong. Why do we want to know that? Hello? Look how we were educated. You have a test. This is either the right answer or this is the wrong answer. So if we can get out of that programming and realize that it is literally a program, that we are seeking yes or no to everything. It's a program, y'all. And that this whole thing is a fluid experience that we get to determine how packed in every moment of experience is. Time's going to be more fulfilling. Time's going to move at a pace that is more digestible, maybe even overwhelming in the beginning, but we're going to be able to taste it. We're going to be able to taste it and digest it because we got multiple perspectives. We're going to be seeking harmony as opposed to argument, which is going to set us up for the evolution and the ascension of ourself, because these concepts are necessary for us to accept another person's emotions as our own, to accept another person's thoughts as our own. And the end of all of this, we have that word, enlightenment, that is the destination, whether it happens through death or some other way. Enlightenment is the becoming of light, which means we graduate to a bodiless condition. We become light. We lose the body. Enlightenment means no body, no physical body, but all of the perspective, all of the knowledge, all of the wisdom, all of the experience within the light, which is everything. So while we are in separate physical vehicles, how I've come to accept the meaning of all this is what I've been talking about. And once we gain all the perspectives necessary, once we gain all the perspectives, feel all the feelings, see all the things, we no longer need the separate bodies, and we unify into light. And that's another perspective that we can take. And we can take the YOLO perspective. We can take this, like, we're on this ascension path perspective. And I hope that that's usable and that you guys can integrate. I don't know. I guess I don't really hope, or I don't really have attachment to you integrating that, but what I can say is that it's been very interesting for me to come up with this way of being. And I just liked sharing that with you all, and maybe you take something with it or maybe you don't. But ta-ta. Until next time.